So remember that we talked about scalar line integrals because we had some questions about vector fields that we needed line integral machinery to answer. And those questions were these. So one of the three things that we said we wanted to measure about vector fields was we wanted to be able to measure the total tendency for a vector field to flow along a curve. So, right, if we go from here to here along this curve and the vector field is going like this, we should be able to sort of measure this total flow. This one clearly should be positive since the vector field is flowing in the direction we're traversing this curve. But this is an integral kind of question because we're sort of adding up at each location along this curve. We're adding up the tendency, how much the vector field is flowing along. So this is an integral kind of question, and that's why we took a pause on this question to talk about line integrals so that we knew how to integrate along lines. Our second thing that we wanted to measure was the tendency for a vector field to flow across a curve like this, right? At every point along this curve, this particular vector field has a tendency to flow downwards, and we should be able to measure that tendency by doing some sort of integral that measures at each point how much the vector field is flowing across the curve. And then one last thing is, if our vector field is representing a force field, we ought to be able to measure the work done by the force on an object that moves along a curve, right? Because in general, work is force times displacement. But displacement is really a vector, and so at every location along this curve as an object moves along, there's some force that it experiences at that location, and there's some tiny displacement that the object makes to get to the next point on the curve, and so there's this little bit of work that is being done at this particular point. And so we should be able to add up all of the little bits of work, but since we're adding up a bunch of little bits along a curve, that's going to be a line integral. So now that we have our machinery for scalar line integrals, we can come back to all three of these and maybe develop some particular styles of line integral to answer these three particular questions.